Hey Amarillo. I'm Skylar Gallup, and you're listening to Hey Amarillo. It's the interview podcast featuring some of the most interesting people and stories of Amarillo, Texas. We record each week at the beautiful offices of Rosenbach Contractors, experts in high-end design and construction, creating stunning, functional spaces through both new builds and remodels. Today's guest is Judge Titiana Frausto. She's the district judge for the 181st Court, covering Randall and Potter counties. Judge Frausto grew up in Louisiana and found herself raising a family and building a career in the Texas Panhandle. We talk about her job, some interesting nuance in the judicial system, what it was like for her to step into her judgeship as the first African American to hold that role, and how she's found a home in our community. It's a lovely and smart and thought-provoking conversation, and I hope you enjoy it. Here's Titiana. Judge Titiana Frausto, welcome to the Hey Amarillo podcast.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Excited to visit with you. So we like to kind of start at the beginning. Where'd you grow up? What was childhood for Judge Frausto?
So I grew up in Louisiana. I was raised in a small town north of New Orleans, Kentwood, Louisiana. It's a very rural area. I was raised by a single mom. I say that, but my dad has always been a part of my life. He just did not live in the same household as I did. But I have an older sister and then two older brothers, and so we were the Dixon Five, and very close-knit family that I grew up in, And then after graduating high school, I went to the University of New Orleans, and I graduated from there, and then Hurricane Katrina happened. And so after Hurricane Katrina, I really knew that I did not want to stay in Louisiana for law school. I wanted to just get out, but not too far out. So I set my sights on Texas and ended up attending Texas Tech. I thought that it would be 3 years there, and then I'd go at least closer back to home. But I met my husband while I was in law school, and he is a Amarillo native. And so, we ended up back here in Amarillo.
Nice. So I'd like to take you back to your time in New Orleans. So were you, when Katrina happened, were you in New Orleans? What was that experience like for you?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I did not stay and ride out the storm. So I evacuated New Orleans probably a day and a half before the storm hit, just because it was a chaotic time. The news stories, one day it was coming our way, one day it wasn't coming our way, and then all of a sudden overnight it's coming, New Orleans is going to hit, and you should get out. And so I woke up on a Saturday morning, packed an overnight bag, grabbed my dog, and I just left New Orleans and went back up to Kentwood, where my family lives, because we're not in a flood zone.
Okay.
And at the most in that area, we get winds and rains. And so I did evacuate and go to my mom's house.
Wow. How long were you away? So were you in an apartment? You said you'd already graduated, so it was an apartment.
Yeah.
How long were you away from your apartment?
So we could not get back into the city for, I think it was 2 weeks before I could go back to assess any damage. I lost everything, but I was young, so in the grand scheme of things, I didn't lose a lot compared to the loss that I know other people had. So it was just personal property that I could just recover from. But we went back, we cleaned up what we could, salvaged what we could, and then I was working for a law firm at the time, and so that firm temporarily relocated to Lake Charles, which is much further north. Mm-hmm. And so I relocated with them, and we rented a place there and stayed. And then Hurricane Rita hit, and it hit Lake Charles.
Oh my gosh. How long after you guys had gone through Katrina?
It wasn't that long. I can't remember the full timeline of it.
But a couple years or?
No, months.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, it was a very quick turnaround that another hurricane comes, and then we are in the area that hurricane hits. And so it ended up being several months before the firm that I was working for was able to get back into New Orleans, get back into the building we were in, and start rebuilding. And so I just kind of was in limbo for a while, worked on whatever projects I could work on while we were all just displaced.
Wow. What was that like? I mean, what was it like to go back after and see the destruction and, of course, the incredible challenges and struggles of the city afterward?
Hard. It was heartbreaking because a lot of it I saw unfold on the news because I couldn't go back, but the news was broadcasting everything that went on when the levees broke, all of the flooding after that, the casualties as a result of that,
Yeah.
and then to go back into the city knowing all the devastation that had occurred. And New Orleans is a vibrant city. It's hustle and bustle and people everywhere going all the time. When we went back, it was not. It was dead silent. There were very few people because people were slowly trickling back into the city to assess damage. And so it was nothing like I had ever seen the city before.
Thank you for sharing that. So you find yourself in Lubbock, Texas, as a Red Raider.
Yes.
What did you study at the University of New Orleans? Law, like pre-law?
I studied political science, pre-law.
Oh, cool.
I also got my paralegal certification. And so when I say I was working at a law firm, I was working as a paralegal at a law firm at that time.
And whenever you kind of like started going through higher education, did you have a dream of I'm going to be a judge? Were you going to be like a criminal defense attorney? Like what was your plan in law?
So I've wanted to be a lawyer since I was a little kid. My mom tells a story of my mom's a retired school teacher. And when I was in kindergarten, I went to the school that my mom taught at. And so for kindergarten graduation, we all walk across the stage and they ask, when you grow up, what do you want to be? And so I had practiced saying, I want to be a teacher just like my mom.
Okay.
And as she says, I walked across the stage and it's my turn. And I proudly say, when I grow up, I want to be a lawyer. And then I just walked off. And it just kind of stuck.
Where did that come from?
I don't know. I don't have any lawyers in my family. I don't recall knowing any lawyers growing up. I watched a lot of Cosby Show, and I did love Claire Huxtable. So maybe I don't know where it came from, but she said that it really just stuck. And all my life, I knew I would be a lawyer or a teacher because I hold my mom in very, very high regard and spent lots of time in her classroom with her. And so I always enjoyed the work she did. But being a lawyer always stuck. And so going through higher education, somewhere along the way, I was set on, I wanted to be a corporate lawyer. I don't even know that I really knew what that meant, but it
sounds fancy.
And the law firm that I worked at did do corporate law. They did a lot of asbestos litigation, and I worked on a lot of those cases. And when I went to law school, I just stuck with, when I get out, I want to do corporate law. But God has a way of working things out. And so nothing went on the track that I thought that it would go on. I did not move back closer to home. I've never practiced corporate law. I immediately came out and started practicing initially Social Security disability. And then...
And you're up in Amarillo at this point, right?
Yes, yes. Cool. When I came to Amarillo, I started working with the Abbott Law Firm. And that firm at that time did primarily Social Security disability. And so James Abbott taught me his trade. And so I started doing Social Security with him. And then I branched out and also started doing some criminal defense and then family law and fell in love with both of those practice areas. And so I went out on my own, and when I went out on my own, I solely did the family law and the criminal defense.
So when you say go out on your own, is that like starting it? Can you just, I mean, you can just practice law. Is that like you start your own firm, or it's just you're getting clients, you're representing your clients? Like, what does that kind of look like?
Yes, I mean, I went out on my own. As we call it, we hang a shingle. And so I rented an office space and got myself all set up and prayed that the phone would ring, and praise God it did. And so I started accepting clients, and this community is great. And so lawyers referred clients. Nice. And so it just grew from there.
Talk a little bit about criminal defense and family law. That's kind of like the quintessential lawyering, right?
Yes.
That I think like that people think of. What's crazy about it? What's good? What's tough?
If you want to be in a courtroom, which I quickly realized I do, I want to be in the courtroom. Those are the practice areas that go to court probably most often. And when I would go to court and watch other attorneys in court, that was generally who I saw practicing, were the criminal defense lawyers and the family lawyers. Civil lawyers go to court as well, don't get me wrong, but the ones you see day in and day out were the family and the criminal. Those practice areas are so rewarding because people come to you at a time in their life where they are in desperate need of help. Their life and liberty are at stake. Their family dynamic and their children's lives are at stake, and they need someone to help them both tackle the emotions that come along with that, and also the legal ramifications involved, whatever the allegations may be or whatever the facts of their case may be. And so it can be hard to separate your feelings from their feelings of what's going on. And by that, I mean not getting so emotionally invested in what's happening in their life that you cannot guide them legally, because that's what they need you for. And so that part of it can be difficult because some of those cases can be very, very high emotions, and figuring out how to process that and the proper place to put it without making your client feel like you're diminishing what they're going through.
Yeah, I think for people that don't have formal training, which is like the vast majority of humans, the judicial system feels really big and inaccessible, and like I just imagine I would feel so lost if I were trying to navigate that. And so it makes me think of how important like the trust that you have in a relationship with your clients would be.
Yes.
That you're the person that's helping them navigate things, a system that they have little information about, but yet has huge impact on their lives and the lives of their families.
Yes, absolutely. And so those relationships are so important because if your client doesn't trust you, it's really hard to be able to help them.
What did you love about criminal defense and family law?
Again, I loved being in the courtroom. Every case is different.
Why do you love that?
Being in the courtroom?
Yes, like what is it? I think it's so cool.
That's what I went to law school for. I went to law school to be an advocate, to go into the courtroom and fight for people, that could not fight for themselves, and to be their voice. And, a lot of times I often go into elementary schools and kids will tell me, my parents say I should be a lawyer because I like to argue. And so that's what people always say. And I'm like, well, arguing is one thing, but really you're trying to convince someone of your side of the problem. And so you can argue all day long, but if you're not convincing anyone, it doesn't really get you anywhere. And so, that's what I loved so much about practicing, was to be able to process the law, apply it to the facts of whatever the circumstances are in that case, and to go into a courtroom and make a competent argument for my side of the case and to advocate for my client and my client's wishes.
It seems very stressful. Are you a person that just like really keeps cool, keeps calm under pressure? Because I'm like, of course, the frame of reference that we have is movies, and so I'm just thinking about like a really like a really like tense cross direct. You know what I mean? And are you just like, I'm good, I got this, like let's go, or do you kind of have to? What was that like?
It depends on the situation. I'm always a work in progress. And so I'm sure in some instances I've done a whole lot better at keeping composure under pressure than in other situations. But in my professional life, I really always strive to keep composure.
Yeah.
There's a phrase, you can be right. What is it? You can be right but wrong at the top of your voice. And so screaming and yelling and trying to get your point across.
Sometimes
like your point gets lost in the loudness and in the chaos. And so trying to just keep that composure and make your point. Still, you can be strong and make your point without having aggression and anger, because sometimes people can't see past that and your point's lost.
Right but wrong at the top of your voice. I really like that. Nice. I think that a question that gets thrown around a lot for a valid reason is like, how does it feel when you have to represent someone who committed a crime, like maybe a bad crime?
we have the Constitution.
Yeah.
And everyone has a constitutional right to be represented by counsel. And so a lot of times when I was in practice, I never really asked someone, did you do this? You know, they come in, they tell me their story, they tell me what they're accused of, and my job is to look at the evidence, look at the law, and figure out our path forward. And sometimes that's to tell the client, this doesn't look good for you.
Yeah.
Other times it's to tell the client, you know, here's the issues that I see, and this could go this way, this could go that way, and advising them, these are your options, but ultimately it's the client's decision to make. Do they want to take the chance and go to court? Do they want to see if they can work out a deal? It becomes their option of how they want to proceed with the case. But my job was to look at the case, look at the facts of the case, the law that applies to their case, and let them know from my experience, this is my recommendation. This is how I see your case playing out. Here are your options. How do you want to proceed? Now, there's always cases where a lawyer could get into the point where they might say, this is not for me, and I can't go forward with it. But at the end of the day, the lawyer's job is to give them the legal advice, not to judge them. But now I'm the judge.
I was going to say, what a lovely segue. Okay, so thanks for talking to me a little bit about what it was like whenever you were kind of practicing attorney. What happened next? How does one move into becoming a judge?
So in my specific case, the judge of the 181st for the previous 20 years had been Judge John Board, and Judge Board retired in the middle of a term. So we serve 4-year terms, and in the middle of his term, he retired. And in that instance, the governor then appoints someone to serve out the remainder of that term. And it's an application interview process with the governor's office. And then ultimately the governor selects, appoints, and then that person is sworn in for that position. And so this was during COVID for me, and so it was all Zoom. But I applied, I interviewed with the governor's office via Zoom. I don't know how many applicants there were, but I think there were a few. And then ultimately I was selected and sworn in to finish out Judge Board's unexpired term.
If you're starting or growing a small business and need some cash, let me tell you about Amarillo Venture Capital. They are a Hey Amarillo sponsor. They're locally owned, and what makes them different is they don't just invest in businesses. They invest in people. So whether you need $5,000 or $50,000, they offer flexible, asset-based loans, often with funding in a week or less. And it's not just the money. They can connect you with their local network of legal, accounting, and business resources to help you succeed. Check them out at amarilloventurecapital.com. Okay, so I like even pay attention, and I find the judicial system very difficult to navigate so far as like district judges and county judges and this court and that court. So can you explain what court you are the judge of and like kind of what that oversees?
So I am a judge of the 181st District Court, and I serve both Potter County and Randall County. Potter County has 5 district courts. Of the 5, 3 of us also serve Randall County.
Cool.
And then the 47th also serves Armstrong County.
Okay.
All of the district courts have jurisdiction over any felony criminal matter. We hear family law cases. That includes divorces, child custody, adoptions. We have CPS cases, but we have associate judges that hear the CPS cases. There are times where we might have to hear it, but by and large, the associate judges hear the CPS cases, and we also have an associate judge that hears the child support cases. Those cases can come before us, but as a general practice, they're handled by the associate judges. And then general civil cases like car wrecks, contract disputes, civil cases like that are also what we hear.
Okay, thank you. And it's an elected position.
Yes.
To your point, you were appointed because the previous judge retired midterm.
Correct.
And that was in 2020 or 2021, like right in there?
2020.
Okay,
I
cool.
was sworn in on October 1st, 2020.
Okay, cool. And so then how long until you had to run?
And so then that term expired at the end of, 2022. And so I drew an opponent. And so I had to then run. And I ran a contested election, and then I was elected back to this position.
They're 4-year terms then?
Yes.
Cool.
And so I'm currently up for election presently. I did not draw an opponent, and so I was unopposed in the March primary, and then I won't have an opponent in November. So I will be reelected for another term.
Well, congratulations and thank you.
Thank you.
So did you, I think being an elected official is a lot different, I'm assuming, than being an attorney. Was that something that, like, when did that start to become like, okay, I could go through that. I could, I could build a campaign, figure out what that looks like, and, do that. And then it sounds like your first run was contested. Reflect on that whole situation there for a little bit.
I am a person that really does feel like when God says move, you move. And so being a judge was something that had always been, I shouldn't say always, at some point in the midst of law school, being a lawyer, I had thoughts and desires of being a judge one day. I can't say that in 2020 I felt like, this is the time frame that I saw this happening. But the circumstances came about, and so I felt like this is something that I'm at least going to try for. At that time, I was working at the Underwood law firm, and so I decided I'm going to apply, and if I get it, then that's what God meant to happen. If I don't, that's fine. I'm working at a job that I love. And so that process was it's nerve-wracking because I have no control over it. All I can do is apply, interview, and just wait to see what happens. And then I was selected, and it was just kind of off to the races. Things just kind of moved quickly from there. I had to wrap up a practice, and then I was sworn in and seated on the bench at a time where we weren't even having in-person hearings, and just adapting to that and figuring out how to go forward and effectively run a courtroom during a time that was just unprecedented.
In my head, you're young to already be in that position, right? When my brain thinks of elected judges, certainly in our area, it's a bunch of old white guys, right? Is that something did that feel inaccessible to you? Was that, is that something that you go to work every day to be representative for other little girls that look like you so that they can walk across the kindergarten stage and say, I want to be an attorney? Like, how do you reflect on that? Or is it just like, I'm really good at my job and that's why I landed here,
In the process of applying, I never had the thought of, this is inaccessible to me. This can't happen. I won't. In my mind, it was open to everyone, and I'm going to apply, and I'm going to receive the same consideration that anyone else should. It did not intimidate me. I didn't feel like I would be judged differently than anyone else. In that process, once I was selected and sworn in, the magnitude of it quickly caught up to me because people started saying things like, you're going to be the first African-American judge we've ever had in Amarillo.
Oh, really?
You're going to be the first African-American judge we've maybe had in the district judge that we've had in the Panhandle. And so all of that, all of a sudden did start to rest upon me that, hey, this is a big deal. It was already a big deal to me, that I'm becoming a judge anyway. But then, yes, it did become the weight of it and the importance of it quickly caught up to me. And so one of the things that happened, and so many wonderful things happened in that process, when I was sworn in, because it was COVID, I did my ceremony on the Potter County Court lawn downtown. And, I'm not from here, and I didn't feel like I had been here all that long, even though we had lived here 10 years at that time.
Yeah.
But you wonder, who's going to show up? It's COVID. Do people really want to get out?
Yeah.
Is the community going to show up and embrace me as their new district judge? And that was one of the most wonderful days. We showed up there and people just kept coming. People just kept showing up. And I stood on those stairs and I looked out on a community that I was not raised in, but a community that I knew had welcomed me and embraced me, and they showed up to support me and cheer me on as their new district court judge. And I was in awe. I was so thankful. My mom was there. And, my mom's concern always was just that I find home, because home was always with my family. And I think that day stuck to her, that her baby girl had found home because the community showed up so big to support me on that day. But another thing that happened in that time, so in Randall County, at the courthouse, they have every judge that has served picture hanging on the wall outside their courtroom. And the 47th is our oldest district court. So when you go down there, there's probably 20 pictures down that hall of all the judges that have served in the 47th. And then next is the 251st. And I think there's 3 for that court. And then there's the 181st. And it had been 3 or 4 previous judges. And when the day they hung my picture on the wall, I was the first African-American picture to be hung on that wall. And in my mind, I knew anytime someone comes down this hallway, I hope that they can see that picture and believe if this lady could do this, so can I. I think sometimes people get caught up that it's not about race, it's not about race. It's not, but it is about representation. And I do want to be a positive role model for everyone, but especially for little girls and little boys that look like me, that may feel like there is a ceiling that they're gonna hit, that they can't get above. I want them to know you can do anything that you wanna do. You can do anything that you put your mind to if you just work hard and drown out the noise that you can't, because you can.
I love that. Thank you. What a beautiful story about your mom saying like, okay, my baby's got a home.
Yeah.
That's so perfect. Okay, so all this while you're raising kiddos, just like busting your butt, kicking ass. How old were your kids we'll start there. How old were your kids when you were sworn in to the judge, to the bench?
That was 2020. So my youngest was 3.
Oh my gosh.
And then, so they would have been 3 and 6 and 8.
Nice. And your husband also practices law, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Tell me what he does.
He is in-house at Pantex now.
Cool.
Yes. He recently made a job change.
Nice. Very fun. So talk a little bit about raising kids while you're building a big old career.
It's crazy. My kids are great. I love it. They are the joy of my life. They are currently 14, 11, and 8. The oldest and youngest are girls. The middle is a boy. It's funny that 2 people can create 3 kids that are so vastly different from each other, because they are all so different in all the best ways, but they keep us busy. Each one of them, outside of killing it in school, they all have extracurricular activities that they participate in. And so we are a busy family. We are going in all directions all the time, but we love it.
Yeah.
And so my husband coaches my oldest daughter's club basketball team, and then I coach my youngest daughter's soccer team, and we're busy in a good way.
Doing a lot. Do you have any young budding attorneys?
We don't push it on any of them, but of our kids, the oldest has taken an interest in the law. I don't think that she's fully sure of it, which she's going into 9th grade, so she's probably not sure of anything. But she's the only one that's at least taken an interest in the law.
Cool. Okay, so I want to talk about being a judge. It is your job to judge people, which I find interesting. How do you think about that? I think we kind of are like taught all of our lives, and we try to tell our children like it's not your place to judge. Like it's not your place. It is, however, yours. What do you think about that?
It's a funny title that we have, and I don't think my job is to judge people, because people come in from all different backgrounds, all different facts associated with their case. And my job is to apply the law to the facts of their case. I am there to be fair and impartial, but also just to everyone that comes in. And so judge is our title, but judging, I don't think, and not in the negative connotation that is applied to that word, is not what we sit there and do. Because there's a lot of grace that comes with our job and the position that we hold, just as also there's a lot of, doing the hard thing and handing out punishment. So it goes both ways.
Yeah. I think I had Sonia Letson on a handful of months ago, and we had a similar conversation. I find it very interesting to think about that. Yeah, for sure. Like our country has decided that it is illegal to murder someone, that it is illegal to steal from people, and I can understand how your job is to just say, well, did we break this law or not? But then, kind of to your point, there is some grace, there is some autonomy that you have, like in sentencing and stuff. And so how do you approach, when it is in fact like your decision, that it's not just a litmus test to law that is already written, but when it is like you got to decide, is it, and I'm oversimplifying, I know, but like, is it 20 years or 10 for this person, right?
So a lot of things come into play when it comes to sentencing. And so, we get to know someone's criminal history. Obviously, we know the facts, like has there been any other alleged crimes or things like that. And so we look at the person and the allegations as a whole, safety of the community, is this going to deter any other criminal activity? Is there an opportunity to rehabilitate this person? What punishment is necessary to accomplish all of these goals of the criminal justice system? And so all of those things play into a determination of what a sentence should be or what sentence should be imposed.
It's quite the responsibility.
Yes.
Yeah.
But in most cases, go to a jury for punishment. And so we have our criminal justice system allows for trial by jury. And so in the criminal context of it, many individuals do choose to have a trial by jury. And then the second phase is punishment. And they can also choose to have the jury assess punishment or the judge assess punishment.
Oh, I don't think I knew that, thankfully. I'm not upset that I don't have like a super working knowledge of the criminal justice system. I think similarly, what skills have you developed to kind of like deal with stress?
Having something outside of my job. My job is not my identity. This is what I do, and I love what I do, but I don't look in the mirror and see Judge Frausto. I look in the mirror and see so many other things that make me who I am and things that I enjoy. And so before we got on, I was telling you I was recovering from an injury, but I enjoy working out. That is a big stress relief for me, is to go throw some weights around. My family and I attend church on a regular basis, and so we all try to stay very spiritually centered. Time with my family is a huge stress relief. Just to hear the innocence of my 8-year-old talk about what went on with her at school. It just brings whatever I've dealt with at work down to, she's talking about someone didn't like the color of her shirt, or at school today they were learning about, this or that, and just listening to the way my kids see and interact with the world just kind of reframes my mind sometimes of the things that I hear in the courtroom.
Yeah, I've got littles as well, and it is becoming increasingly true, kind of the saying that like they teach us or they do so much more for us than we do for them, and I think that's a perfect example of like, and what a lovely blessing to have a place to like be reminded of the good and of what is important and of perspective, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so like, what's your career path? You gonna like what do you think that you'll be doing in 20 years? 15. Let's go 15.
I hope that I'm still doing this. If
Really?
the residents of Potter and Randall County agree.
Yeah.
I love this job. I love the people that I get to work with. I love the impact that I know this job has on the community. We have a very good group of judges. We all work well together. We all work very hard, and I enjoy it. I enjoy going to work every day. I love my staff. They are awesome. They make me look good, and so
It's a good staff.
yes, they are a very good staff, and they're my family away from home. I enjoy spending my day with them, and so I don't know what God has in store, but if it's this, I'm very happy with what I am doing right now.
Does your marketing feel like a shot in the dark? Are your social media posts getting lost in the scroll? Unlock your business's potential with SKP Creative. They know your audience and design posts that reflect your brand and drive real engagement. From scroll-stopping social media content to powerful traditional marketing, graphic design, and website development, SKP Creative covers it all. Are you ready to elevate your feed and turn your marketing into a success story? Visit skpcreative.com today. Okay, I'm back with Judge Titiana Frausto. Tatiana, this is the part of the show we call 8 Straight. I've got 8 fast ones for you.
Okay.
When you think of Amarillo 10 years from now, what do you hope for?
I hope to see more growth in the community. Our population is growing, and I think that we need to grow the industry and the just activities and environment to support the growing community.
Nice. When was the last time you went to Palo Duro Canyon?
Oh, it's probably been like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Other than wind, what does this area have too much of?
Well, right now, I think our crime rate is too high. We have too much crime going on in Amarillo.
Yeah, it's been a couple difficult weekends around here.
Yes.
What does this area not have enough of?
I would like to see more family-oriented activities to do on the weekends. I feel like we don't have a lot of things going on, and I would like to see more things that invited the community out to have cultural experiences, family-oriented experiences. Yes.
I've had a couple of people say that relatively recently. I wonder if there's like a growing appetite, or I'm trying to think of if like something closed down. I mean, nothing like closed.
No.
I just find it interesting. That's been a theme.
We travel a lot because my kids play basketball.
Yeah.
And so when we go to other places, I always look to see like, oh, what's going on in this community this weekend? And there's always like tons of things. And I wish that was the case here, that there were things that we could just get out and go do on the weekends. And sometimes there are, but just not often.
Yeah, I get that. What's your favorite local building?
I really like the Potter County courthouse, the old courthouse that they refurbished. I think it's a really pretty building.
I agree. It is really lovely. And favorite local restaurant?
I cook a lot, so that question's
You do?
hard.
I also cook a lot. What do you like to cook?
I like to cook Cajun food. I like to cook things that make me feel like at home. And so
nice.
To that end, I really like Sunday's Kitchen because he cooks like Creole Cajun food, and it's authentic. I think he's from Louisiana, so.
Nice. Very good. Okay, so you have 4 hours to spend in Amarillo with someone who's never been here before. What are you doing?
I probably would take them to the canyon because though I don't get there that often, I really like the canyon. I think it's beautiful. Anytime I've taken someone to the canyon, they always enjoy it. And so other than stopping to get something to eat before or after, I'd probably say, let's go spend some time in the canyon and look around.
I love it. What do you think people get wrong about Amarillo?
I think people think Amarillo is small, and it's not really small. I think Amarillo is a lot bigger than what people think that it is. So I think that they get that wrong about Amarillo. It's a big city with a small town feel.
I completely agree. Okay, that concludes our 8 Straight. I like to end these episodes by offering my guests the opportunity to endorse something, whether that be a story, something to try out, something to get involved in our area. What would you endorse for listeners?
Ooh, endorse is a hard word because I can't endorse
Not a political
anything.
endorsement, that's right. What would you encourage? Let's use encourage. Encourage someone to know more about, try, do in our community.
I would just encourage people to get out and volunteer. Find a nonprofit, any of your choosing, and get out and volunteer.
I like that. I know you do some of that. What are the organizations you're currently involved in?
I serve on the board of the Downtown Women's Center,
Lovely.
The Northside Toy Drive, and the Amarillo College Foundation Board.
Perfect.
Yes.
Judge Frausto, thank you so much for your service to our city and for coming on and visiting today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
If you love great music, do not miss this one. Rachmaninoff's Third Piano Concerto, one of the most electrifying pieces ever written, performed live by the incredible Drew Peterson. Add Prokofiev's Fifth Symphony and the Amarillo Symphony Youth Orchestra, all under the baton of George Jackson. It is going to be a night to remember. It's March 27th and 28th at the Globe News Center. Grab your tickets today at amarillosymphony.org. And that concludes the episode. Thanks to Judge Frausto for the interview. And thank you to Venture Capital, SKP Creative, and the Amarillo Symphony for supporting the podcast. And thanks to Broderick Adams for editing every week. And thank you for listening. This has been episode 444 of Hey Amarillo. I am Skylar Gallup, and we hope you come back next week.